This is my first time posting on a subreddit, but not my first time having a weird experience. Let me give you a brief tale of when I got the absolute shit scared out of me. It was the summer of my 16th year on this bodacious earth, and on a day I should have been wearing the brown pants. For a few years, I had been feeling this occasional sense that I was being watched, mainly when I would say prayers before bed or when I was alone or in the basement. I just always had this ominous feeling trickle up and then fade away. The older I got, the less I tried caring about it until it became downright poltergeisty. I'm home alone in the middle of a summer day. Schools are out and I'm in full chill mode. It was a rare day too. My brothers were all out of the house and my parents were at work. So yay me, I'm at home all by my lonesome self. Now the door to our basement is located just on the edge of the living room, between the garage door, which is on the right, and right next to a small hallway to a half bath. Now on the left of the basement door is a small set of stairs that lead to the kitchen. I'm sitting on the couch in such a way that I can easily see the TV and the basement door. My back was to the wall, so nothing is coming up from me from behind, but the entire time I'm watching my show, that damn basement door is in my peripheral view. I started getting the feeling again that I'm being watched and it's almost radiating from the basement door. I try to ignore it. I try to pay attention to the movie and focus on it, but just when I almost forgot about the feeling altogether, I hear a creaking noise from the door. It was left open a crack and it had now opened up much as an inch more than it had before. Nothing big, but it definitely put me on edge since I was already feeling off. I again decided to ignore it and decided I would not be giving into my own fears if I just closed the door right then and there and get lost in my show again. As soon as I've nearly forgotten about the door again, it creaks a little back and forth. Last time it had hardly moved an inch and could easily be rationalized as a weird draft running through the house and moving it. That is what I told myself over and over again. It's a draft. You're too old to be freaking out about this kind of stuff. It's a freaking draft. I kept telling myself until I started to relax a little bit and start enjoying my show again. Somehow, weird-ass things come in threes, because the third time, our basement door decided to move. Except this time, it left me with no justification that it was just a draft, because on the third time around, the door didn't open up an inch or two or three. It opened up an even slow pace all the way until it gently hit the wall and stopped moving altogether. The basement door was completely open and this feeling of being watched or something being there was intensely strong and overwhelming even. And frankly, I freaked the hell out. Now, I'm the kind of person that tends to freeze and assess in these type of situations, so at first I jumped up to face the door but just froze. The only way I could run away would be directly at the basement door. Remember, the kitchen steps are directly next to the basement, and now the door was open so wide that it was blocking the kitchen steps. I'd have to close the door to get past that option, or I could try going through the garage door, but then I have to walk directly in front of the open basement door frame, and I had an irrational fear of being dragged into the basement. So I chose the aggressive third option. I walk along the wall towards the kitchen steps, aggressively round kick the door hard enough probably to do some damage and made damn sure it was actually closed this time. And then I just booked it out of the house. I refused to go back in until I wasn't alone anymore and kind of meandered around. Eventually, I went to a family friend's house nearby and waited there. To this day, when I tell my story, my dad responds, "No way that didn't happen to you. You were just sleeping or something." He may refuse to believe it, but that was the day I decided spooky shit can really happen. It's rare, but I know what I saw, and I'm now a believer. When I was a kid, my parents and my 4 siblings moved into an old house in Maine. My mom and dad were an interior designer and a remodeling contractor at the time. They would fix the house to make it look better. We would move in temporarily, and in a few months, we would be out of there. This one particular house that we moved in was particularly different. We planned to stay there for a few months as usual and stay there to save up money to buy our dream house, but that didn't end up happening. The day I walked into that house, I had a bad feeling that something or someone was watching us. For the first few nights, nothing really happened, except for some pipes making noise and a bad smell coming from the kitchen. I took it was because it was an old house, so I just brushed it off. But on day 4 of living there, my little sister, or what I thought was my little sister, came in my room and laid on my bed. This wasn't weird because my little sister always had very bad nightmares and she would always come lay with me for comfort. I started to go back to sleep, but then my sister started squeezing my hand so tight that I couldn't move my hand away. I started crying because how bad it hurt. I kept telling her to stop and that it really hurt. I remember I had enough momentum to get her hand off of me and for me to get up, but I saw there was nothing. My sister was never in my room. I started crying even more, thought that someone was in my room, and I started questioning myself. Who was that? Was this some kind of joke? Was I just dreaming? I knew I couldn't fall asleep in that room again by myself that night, so I went up to my big sister's room, and she asked me, why did I come sleep with her? I told her everything, and she just told me that Anna, my little sister, was probably just playing a joke on me and that I had nothing to worry about. I asked my sister the following morning if she thought she was funny that she tried to make me cry last night. She said she didn't know what I was talking about, and she said she was never in my room, but she was in her room all night. After hearing that, my body went numb, and I didn't know what to say to her. I just walked away and went to go and sit in the reading room trying to process all of this. After a few minutes of just sitting there, I told my parents what happened, and after just telling them, they just told me I was probably dreaming and said I watched too much TV and I should watch less of it. I knew I didn't dream that whole thing. I just wish time would just go by faster so we can get the heck out of this house, I thought. After a month went by, I forgot about what happened and just went back to sleeping in my room. I started noticing that my mom was acting weird, like doing things she hadn't done before. Like one night, my dad woke up to my mom on him with a knife to his neck, and my dad grabbed the knife from her hand and threw it across the room. My dad continued to say, "What the hell are you doing?" My mom woke up and started crying. My dad suggested that she should take a break from building the house and go to stay with her mom for a few days. My mom agreed and kept saying that she was sorry and didn't know what got into her. A couple of days later, my mom packed her stuff and went to Florida to see her mom. At least we thought she was doing that. Later that night, my older sister went down to get a glass of water until she saw her mom standing in the kitchen. She didn't say anything and walked away to go tell our dad. After hearing that her mom was still in the house, my dad jumped out of bed and went to go find her until he saw my mom jump from the second-story balcony. My dad tried to catch her, but he got there too late. My mom died from suicide. We don't know why she did it. My mom was the happiest person we knew, and all I know is she didn't do that to herself. There was something telling her to jump. I'm going back to that house after 20 years. I need answers. Wish me luck. Update. I went back to the house and I didn't expect to experience something more terrifying than what I saw. When I walked in that house again, that bad smell that I've experienced 20 years ago was still there, but the smell wasn't just in the kitchen but throughout the whole entire house. I walked over where my mom, dad, and I saw a big puddle of old blood. By the sight of it, that freaked me out, so I left and started to walk up the stairs. Before I got to the stairs, I heard this noise. It sounds like a woman. I started following the sound and realized what it was saying. Help me. It wasn't me, Kim. Kim is my name. I was so terrified after hearing that, I just backed up into the bookcase. The sound started getting closer and closer to me. As it got closer to me, I realized the woman was my mom. Being that my mom died 20 years ago, I started to have a panic attack. I ran up the stairs and locked myself into a room before the noise reached me. The voice that was imitating my mom, help me, was dying down. So I started to feel relieved and started to look around the room. It was actually my old room. I started looking at the things that we left behind when my father and my 4 siblings and I just left. There was an old shiny cup that my mom gave me when I was just 4. I smiled at the thought that I had something to keep before my mom died. I picked it up and started examining it until my phone started to ring. It startled me at the ringing of the phone that I dropped the cup and broke it. I was devastated and almost started to cry. I answered the phone. Hello? Hey, Kim, where are you? Anna said. I'm at the grocery store, in which I lied. Oh, okay, but I checked your location and it says that you're on Birch Street, Anna said. At this point, I didn't know what to say. I just said, yeah, I'm at a friend's house, getting groceries for her. There was a silence for a couple of seconds until my sister said, you're full of shit. I know you're at the house. I started to act dumb. What do you mean? After saying that, the phone cut out. I thought to myself that was weird, but I needed to end the call anyways. I started to pick up the broken glass from the cup and something unexpected happened. There was a creature in the reflection behind me on the cup. I dropped the cup once again and slowly looked behind me. That's when I saw my mother with her head split open and she grabbed my neck. I passed out for a bit until someone started to shake me. It was my sister, Ann. She took me to the hospital. The nurses said that I shouldn't be alive. I couldn't talk because of how hard the thing squeezed my neck. I don't think I'll ever tell anyone of my family what I saw that night. Yesterday was like any other day for me. Waking up, brushing my teeth, all of that normal everyday stuff. But when it came to night, everything changed. Now some important information to give some perspective. I was at my grand's house in the spare room. I had often heard strange noises in there before, but I always managed to find a reasonable explanation for them, but last night was different. While I was setting up everything for bed, I heard a loud noise from outside, sort of like if a wolf, an owl, or a human all started screaming at the same time. But the noise quickly stopped. You might think, oh, what if it was a wild animal in distress? But my gran lives in a town where the closest woods or fields are like a 10-minute drive away, and I've never heard an animal call like that. But still, I didn't think that it was a big deal and was just being paranoid due to watching some scary stories a few hours prior. Those always make me extra nervy at night. Here's the thing that I can't understand. It was around 1 a.m. I was all comfy, about to fall asleep when I heard something that would make my heart stop. Someone or something whispered my name in a voice like my grandmother and my sister combined. As soon as I heard that, my blood ran cold. I laid perfectly still, my eyes wide open, trying to work out what it was. It sounded like it came from behind my head. And what's worse is that my bed doesn't face the door. The door is behind my head, so if there was something there, I wouldn't be able to see it. I tried to think of a rational explanation, saying I would have heard the door open. Maybe it was just my pillow making noise, or that I was tired. so I was probably just hearing things. Okay, I had calmed myself down and eventually worked up the courage to sit up and look around the room. It's very small, so I knew if something was there, I would see it, but there was nothing. Must have been my imagination, right? Well, 5 minutes later, I heard the same cold, eerie voice, the same whispering tone, saying the same exact thing. Eleanor. I froze again, and a couple of seconds later, the same whispering voice. This time, I couldn't quite hear what it said. I knew it involved my name again, and I'm pretty sure it also said the word ignore at some point. But I say, I'm not 100% sure on what exactly was said. This really freaked me out. I stayed still until I worked up the courage to look again. But again, there was nothing. But just as I started to lay back down, I saw something white dart past, and I kept hearing tapping noises on the floor. I stayed still laying down trying to go to sleep, but outside the window I saw something looking in at me through a gap in the blinds. His eyes were pitch black, and the rest of his face was grayish white. I couldn't remember what time I went to sleep. I spent most of the night watching that thing. And this morning, I checked the blinds and there was nothing there that could remotely look like eyes or nothing outside either. I stayed at my grandmother's a lot and I've never seen or heard anything like that. I'm going to be staying with my gran for a couple more nights, and if anything else happens, I'll update this. If anyone has any ideas what this could be, please let me know. Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. Please leave a comment and let us know your opinions on the matter. If you happen to like this content, please check out our other videos. Make sure you like and share amongst your friends and family to help our community grow. You happen to be new to this channel? Please make sure you subscribe. It's free, and you can always change it in the future. You have some terrifying story suggestions? If so, make sure that you send it to my email, fearofthedarkstories@gmail.com, and I'll feature it in a future segment. But you guys stay safe out there, and remember to always be afraid of the dark.